They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't something you plan at all. It's something life serves up for you on a silver platter. 10 years too late, in the most unexpected place imaginable. My name is Daniel Garrett, and I wake up every morning at 5:30 a.m. sharp. Carpenter's hours, union wage, honest work. The alarm doesn't even need to go off anymore. My body knows the rhythm after 16 years of swinging hammers and measuring twice, cutting once. There's sawdust permanently embedded under my fingernails, and I've made peace with that. It's the mark of a man who builds things that last. I'm 34 years old, and until recently I thought I had everything figured out. A 3-bedroom house in Maple Ridge, nothing fancy, but safe neighborhood, good schools, the kind of place where kids still ride bikes without parents having panic attacks. The mortgage is manageable. Will be paid off in 12 years if we stick to the plan. My truck runs fine, the roof doesn't leak, and my wife Lisa hasn't worked since our son Owen was born 6 years ago. That was our mutual decision. I made enough, and Lisa wanted to be present for our boy. We met 10 years ago at a barbecue thrown by my buddy Mike. I was 24, cocky enough to think I knew everything, humble enough to know I didn't know Lisa. She was laughing at something her friend said, wine glass in hand, wearing this blue sundress that made her eyes look like summer sky. When she smiled at me across the crowded backyard, I felt something shift in my chest, like a foundation settling into solid ground. The chemistry was instant. Easy laughter, comfortable silences, the kind of connection that made everyone else at the party fade into background noise. We talked until 2 a.m. that night, sitting on Mike's back steps, and I knew I was looking at my future. 8 months later, we had a backyard wedding. Nothing elaborate, string lights, Lisa's mom's famous potato salad, my dad officiating because he got ordained online just for us. Lisa's father, a man who didn't give compliments lightly, pulled me aside that day. "You're a good man with a good heart, Daniel," he said warmly. "Take care of my daughter." I promised I would. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of comfortable, stable partnership. We found our rhythm early. I'd leave for the job site before dawn, come home to the smell of dinner cooking and Owen's excited chatter about his day. Saturday morning pancakes became sacred ritual. Friday night movies on the couch, Owen between us, arguing over whether we'd watch Disney or something with explosions. Little league games where I cheered loud enough to embarrass my son, and Lisa laughed at my enthusiasm. Owen is the center of our universe. Bright-eyed, curious, always building impossible structures with his Lego sets. He has my hands and Lisa's smile, and when he concentrates on his homework, his tongue pokes out the corner of his mouth just like his mother used to do when she was figuring out the monthly budget. Lisa's parents visit every Sunday for dinner. Her mom brings dessert. Her dad and I argue about baseball and politics with the comfortable familiarity of family. It's not a glamorous life, but it's ours. Steady, predictable, safe. I used to think I was lucky, but about a year ago, things started to shift. Subtle at first. So subtle I convinced myself I was imagining it. Lisa started having Friday girls' nights. Wine with friends, Jenna, Carla, Brooke. Women she'd known since college, reconnecting after years of motherhood and domestic routine. I didn't mind. Hell, I encouraged it. Lisa deserved time with friends. Adult conversation that didn't revolve around cartoon characters and grocery lists, but she started coming home different. Quieter, restless, like she'd been somewhere that made our life feel smaller by comparison. She'd sit at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone with an intensity that made my stomach tighten. Present in body but absent in spirit. Last Friday night, she showed me a photo on Instagram, Carla's new Louis Vuitton bag. Pristine leather and gleaming hardware. $3,000, she said, her voice carrying a weight I didn't understand yet. I was helping Owen build a Lego castle, focused on finding the right piece. "That's nice," I replied absently. Lisa's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I missed it then, too busy with plastic bricks and my son's delighted laughter. Looking back, that was the moment I should have asked the right questions. But I didn't, and that silence cost me everything. The comparisons became constant. Every Friday night outing spawned Monday morning commentary that felt like tiny cuts, each one deeper than the last. Brooke's going to Paris for her anniversary, Lisa announced over coffee, showing me Instagram photos of the Eiffel Tower. 2 weeks? First class. I looked up from helping Owen with his spelling homework. That's nice for them, I replied. Jenna's husband bought her a new BMW. Leather seats, heated steering wheel, she continued, scrolling to the next post. Look at this. Carla's renovating their kitchen. Marble countertops, Daniel. Real marble. Our kitchen works fine, I said, keeping my voice level. Owen was listening, and I didn't want him picking up on the tension that seemed to follow these conversations like storm clouds. Need isn't the same as want, she replied, her voice cold in a way that made my chest tighten. I tried reasoning with her. We were doing fine, better than fine. Owen's college fund was growing steadily. The mortgage was on track to be paid off early. We took camping trips every summer, explored national parks, made memories. But my words seemed to bounce off her like rain on concrete. Other husbands provide, she said one evening, the accusation hanging in the air like smoke. I do provide, I replied, hurt creeping into my voice despite my efforts to stay calm. Not like that, she responded, gesturing toward her phone, toward lives that existed only in carefully curated social media posts. The arguments intensified as spring turned to summer. Lisa showed me influencer accounts, women lounging on Santorini beaches, designer wardrobes spread across marble floors, luxury hotel rooms with infinity pools overlooking pristine coastlines. Why can't we live like this? She demanded, thrusting the screen toward me. Because we can't afford it, I answered, patience wearing thin. We have responsibilities. A son, a mortgage. Real life. The phrase real life seemed to trigger something in her. Her eyes flashed with anger I'd never seen before, like I'd insulted everything she'd ever dreamed of. You have no ambition, she shot back. No vision. You're content being mediocre forever. The words hit like physical blows. I'd built us a good life, stable, honest, grounded. But in Lisa's eyes, I saw nothing but disappointment, like I was a rough draft she'd outgrown. Things came to a head on a Sunday evening in late July. Owen was having his first sleepover at his grandparents', a milestone we'd been building up to for weeks. I was watching the game, enjoying the rare quiet, when Lisa sat down across from me. Her hands were folded, her face eerily calm. We need to talk, she said. Those 4 words dropped into my stomach like stones into still water. I muted the television, turned to face my wife of 8 years, and felt the ground beneath me start to shift. I've fallen out of love with you, she stated. The words came out rehearsed, practiced, like she'd stood in front of the bathroom mirror perfecting the delivery. Clinical, detached, final. I've met someone, she continued. Richard? Through Jenna. He's different, successful. He makes me feel alive again. My hands were shaking. I gripped the armrests of my chair to steady myself. Have you cheated on me? I asked. No, she said quickly. I'm telling you now to be honest. I want a divorce. The interrogation that followed was brutal. Yes, Richard was wealthy, she confirmed. No, that wasn't the only reason, she claimed, but her eyes said otherwise. Investment banker. Downtown penthouse. The kind of man who didn't have sawdust under his fingernails. Then came the gut punch that nearly doubled me over. I think Owen should stay with you, she announced. You're better suited to raise him right now. I need time to figure out my life. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. You're abandoning your son for a rich guy, I said. I'm not abandoning, she started. You are, I interrupted. Something cold and hard crystallized in my chest. The carpenter in me, the man who'd spent years solving problems with his hands and his head, saw this situation with sudden brutal clarity. Fine, I said, my voice steady for the first time since she'd started talking. You get nothing. I get full custody. We sign papers, you walk away clean, deal? She nodded quickly, too quickly. Relief flickered across her face like she'd been expecting a fight. Deal, she agreed. Get your lawyer, I said. Let's get this done. After she left the room, I sat in stunned silence, processing the fact that my wife had just traded our family for luxury and didn't even fight for her own son. I should have felt devastated, broken. Instead, I felt something colder, a clarity I didn't expect. She'd shown me exactly who she was. Now I just had to protect my son from the fallout. The divorce proceeded with shocking efficiency. Lisa didn't contest a single thing. No alimony demands, no child support negotiations, no property disputes. She signed every document her lawyer placed in front of her like she was desperate to escape a burning building. 3 months after that Sunday night conversation, it was done. 8 years of marriage dissolved with the scratch of a pen. The day she moved out, Owen was at school. I made sure of that. Lisa packed her belongings, 2 suitcases and some boxes, while I was at work. She left a note for Owen on his pillow. I never read it, just sealed it in an envelope and put it in my safe. Years later, when Owen was old enough to make his own decisions, I handed it to him. He held it for a long moment, then put it back without opening it. "Where's Mommy?" Owen asked that first evening, his 6-year-old eyes scanning the house like she might be hiding somewhere. I knelt down, pulled my son close, felt his small body fit perfectly against my chest. "Mommy had to go away for a while, buddy," I told him gently. "But I'm here. I'll always be here," Owen cried that night. Deep, heartbroken sobs that nearly shattered me. I held him until he fell asleep, then sat in his doorway watching him breathe, feeling my heart break and harden simultaneously. The first year was brutal. Learning to be both parents while maintaining full-time work pushed me to my limits. I hired Mrs. Adams, our elderly neighbor, for after-school care. She became Owen's surrogate grandmother, teaching him to fold origami cranes and speaking to him in gentle Mandarin phrases he'd repeat without understanding. I burned dinner regularly those first months. Pancakes became a Wednesday tradition because they were one of the few things I couldn't screw up. Owen learned to braid his own hair by watching YouTube videos. His attempts were crooked and loose, but his determination broke my heart in the best way. Eventually, he asked for a haircut like mine, and I was secretly relieved. Every parent-teacher conference, every Little League game, every school concert, I was there. Front row when possible, cheering loud enough to embarrass Owen and not caring. Lisa's parents remained devoted grandparents, heartbroken by their daughter's choices but committed to Owen. We never spoke ill of Lisa in front of him, but their disappointment was written in every careful silence. By year 2, Owen stopped asking when Mommy was coming back. Lisa sent one text during that time. "How's Owen?" I stared at those 2 words for an hour, then blocked her number. There were no further attempts at contact. Years 3 and 4 blurred together in a rhythm of routine and small victories. Owen made friends, learned to ride a bike, discovered he had my hands for building things. We spent Saturday mornings at Home Depot, Owen picking out lumber for the tree house we built in the backyard, a masterpiece of 8-year-old engineering and father-son compromise. By year 5, the pain had faded to a dull ache, like an old injury that only hurt when it rained. Owen had grown into himself, still curious, still building impossible Lego structures, but steadier somehow. More grounded, he never seemed to feel the absence of his mother as keenly as I'd feared. Years 6 through 8 were good years. Owen made the middle school baseball team. His grades stayed solid without much pushing. He had friends over for sleepovers, and their easy laughter filled the house in ways I'd forgotten to miss. We developed our own traditions, camping trips to state parks, road trips to Civil War battlefields, weekend projects that usually involved more trips to Home Depot than either of us anticipated. The house got paid off in year 9, 3 years early. My union benefits kept us comfortable, and Owen's college fund grew steadily. We weren't wealthy, but we were stable, secure, happy even. "I want to be an electrician like Uncle Mike," Owen announced one evening during his sophomore year. "Or maybe a contractor like you." Pride swelled in my chest. "College is still an option," I reminded him. "I know," he replied. "But I like building things. I like working with my hands." He was 16 now, taller than me, with calloused hands from helping with my weekend projects. Respectful, hard-working, grounded in reality in ways that made me grateful for the path we'd walked together. "You'll be good at whatever you choose," I told him, and meant it. I became the father I needed to be, not because I was some kind of hero, but because I didn't have a choice. And somewhere along the way, the pain faded. Life moved forward. and we built something better than what we'd lost. Owen's 16th birthday was approaching, and I'd planned something special. A weekend trip to the city 2 hours away. Shopping, movies, good food. Father-son time to celebrate the man he was becoming. I thought we'd left that chapter behind. 10 years without a word, without a sign. I thought she was gone for good. I was wrong. Saturday afternoon, downtown department store. Owen and I were browsing the electronics section. He wanted to price out a laptop for his junior year projects. We were debating processor speeds and memory requirements, the easy back and forth of two people who'd spent years learning each other's rhythms. "Dad, you think 16 gigs of RAM is overkill?" Owen asked, squinting at a price tag. "For schoolwork?" "Probably," I answered. "But if you want to do any gaming..." I was mid-sentence when I saw her. A woman in a gray janitor's uniform, shapeless and institutional, pushing a wheeled mop bucket down the main aisle. Something about her posture, the way she moved, careful, almost apologetic, like she was trying to make herself invisible. She turned to clean around a display rack, and our eyes met across 30 feet of retail space. My breath caught. Time seemed to slow, the ambient noise of the store fading to white static. It was Lisa. 10 years had not been kind. The woman I'd married had been vibrant, confident, always aware of how she looked and the effect she had on others. This woman was thin in an unhealthy way, her hair pulled back severely, lines etched around her eyes that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. She looked older than her 42 years. She went pale when she recognized me, turned away quickly, trying to disappear behind a display of handbags. The irony wasn't lost on me. Designer bags she'd once coveted, now something she had to clean around. "Dad, you okay?" Owen asked, noticing my sudden stillness. I forced words out. "Yeah, give me a second," I replied. I walked toward her, my heart pounding against my ribs. She kept her back to me, shoulders rigid with tension. "Lisa?" I called out. She stopped moving but didn't turn around. "Please don't," she said quietly. "Is that you?" I pressed. She turned slowly, and I saw a decade of hard living written across her face. The confidence I remembered was gone, replaced by something that looked like shame made manifest. "Hi, Daniel," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Owen was watching now, confusion written across his features. My 16-year-old son trying to process why his father was talking to a janitor with such intensity. "Go wait by the exit," I told him, voice gentle but firm. "I'll be right there." Owen hesitated. He wasn't stupid, could sense the weight of this moment, but walked away, glancing back repeatedly. "What happened?" I asked, though part of me already knew. Her eyes filled with tears, she tried to blink away. "Can we talk outside?" she asked. We sat on a bench in the parking lot, the afternoon sun harsh and unforgiving. Lisa wouldn't look at me as she talked, her voice hollow, like she'd rehearsed this story for herself countless times, but never expected to tell it aloud. Richard had never married her, she explained. Always had an excuse. His divorce wasn't final, the timing wasn't right. His business needed his full attention. The luxury lifestyle lasted about a year before his drinking became a problem. When Richard drank, he became cruel. Verbal abuse at first, telling her she was lucky to have him, that no one else would want a woman who'd abandoned her child. Then it escalated. "Why didn't you leave?" I asked, though I suspected the answer. "Where was I going to go?" she whispered. I'd burned every bridge. Couldn't face my parents after what I'd done. Couldn't call my friends. They all belonged to his world. "And you..." She finally looked at me. "You'd moved on." Owen had moved on. I'd made my choice. She stayed with Richard for 7 years, she continued. 7 years of walking on eggshells, of making herself smaller and smaller to avoid triggering his rages. Then 2 years ago, he brought home a woman barely older than Owen. "Pack your shit and get out," she quoted. That's what he told me. Casual as discussing the weather. "I'm done with you." She'd been in the city ever since, working whatever job she could find. Night shift at a call center, weekend cleaning at office buildings, this department store gig. One-room apartment above a laundromat barely making rent, invisible to a world that had once catered to her whims. "I destroyed my life," she said, the words coming out broken. "I threw away everything real for the promise of something better. And I got nothing," I nodded slowly. The carpenter in me appreciated the simple architecture of cause and effect. You did, I confirmed. The words were neither cruel nor sympathetic. Just truth, delivered without emotion. Can I talk to Owen? Just for a minute? She asked. He's 16. That's his choice, I replied. Lisa stood on unsteady legs, walked to where Owen leaned against a pillar, scrolling through his phone with the practiced indifference of a teenager. I watched from a distance, close enough to intervene if needed. Owen? She called out. He looked up, no recognition in his face. Why would there be? The last clear memory he had of his mother was from when he was 6. I'm your mom, she said. Owen's expression went hard, colder than I'd ever seen it. Something shifted in his posture. He seemed to grow taller, more solid. I don't have a mom, he replied flatly. Please, just listen. She started. Dad, can we go? Owen's voice carried across the parking lot, final and dismissive. I walked over, put a hand on my son's shoulder. Yeah, buddy. Let's go, I answered. Lisa reached out as if to touch Owen's arm, then stopped herself. Owen, please! She tried again. Owen turned his back on her, completely, deliberately. The gesture was devastating in its simplicity. I looked at Lisa one last time. Part of me wanted to say something profound, something that acknowledged the tragedy of this moment. But there was nothing to say. She'd made her choices. We all had to live with the consequences. Take care of yourself, Lisa, I said. Owen and I walked away. I didn't look back, but I heard it. The sound of Lisa breaking down, quiet sobs echoing across empty asphalt. I thought seeing her broken would feel like victory. It didn't. It just felt empty. Like watching a stranger who happened to share our history. We finished the weekend trip, movies, dinner at Owen's favorite steakhouse, shopping for the laptop he'd eventually choose. Neither of us mentioned Lisa much. The encounter hung in the air between us like smoke, present but unaddressed. We'd become experts at carrying heavy things quietly. Sunday night back at our hotel, Owen finally broke the silence. Are you okay? He asked. I considered the question honestly, surprised by my own answer. Yeah, I am. Are you? I replied. She made her choice, Owen said, his voice steady and mature beyond his 16 years. You were always there. That's all that matters. Pride swelled in my chest, threatening to overflow. Thanks, son, I said. We talked a little more. Owen admitted he'd always wondered what happened to her, had built scenarios in his head over the years. The reality was somehow both worse and less significant than he'd imagined. Do you feel bad for her? He asked. I feel bad that anyone has to live like that, I answered carefully. No one deserves to be abused. But she put herself in that situation. She chose luxury over family, and that choice had consequences. Do you think she regrets it? He pressed. I know she does, I replied. But regret doesn't undo the past. The drive home Monday was peaceful. We stopped at Murphy's Diner, a place we'd been going to for years, where they knew our order and asked about Owen's baseball season. Normal, comfortable, ours. That evening, I sat on our front porch with a beer, thinking about Lisa, about revenge, about justice. I'd imagined this moment before, running into her, seeing her fallen from grace. In my fantasies, I'd felt vindicated, triumphant. The reality was different. I felt nothing, maybe a little sad for the waste of it all. Lisa had chased luxury and lost everything. But I hadn't engineered that downfall. Life had. Her choices had. And that was the truest revenge of all, not something I'd inflicted, but something she'd brought upon herself. I thought about Owen, the boy who'd grown up without a mother but never doubted his father's love. The teenager who was kind, hard-working, grounded in reality. Everything Lisa had abandoned him for had turned to ashes. Everything I'd held on to had become gold. I looked at our house, modest, paid off, filled with 10 years of memories. No marble countertops, no infinity pool, no designer anything, but it was home. Owen walked out, sat beside me on the steps. What you thinking about? He asked. Nothing important, I replied. You ready for baseball tryouts next week? Born ready. Owen grinned, the same smile that had charmed me when he was 6 and still charmed me now. We sat in comfortable silence, father and son, watching the sun set over our quiet neighborhood. Kids rode bikes on the sidewalk. Mrs. Adams waved from her garden. Normal life, lived by normal people who valued what they had. I realized something sitting there. I didn't need to see Lisa suffer to feel vindicated. I'd already won. I'd won the moment I chose to stay, to show up, to be present. I'd won every morning I woke up for my son, every game I attended, every tear I wiped away, every Lego castle we built together. The best revenge wasn't making Lisa pay. It was building a life so good that her absence became irrelevant. "I love you, Dad," Owen said suddenly, the words carrying weight in the gathering dusk. "Love you too, son," I replied. And that, I thought, was worth more than all the Louis Vuitton bags and Paris trips in the world. Inside, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for raising him right. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some chapters stay closed. I walked back inside, closing the door on the past, walking toward the future with my son, the only thing that had ever really mattered. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Owen's music from upstairs. I looked around at our life, ordinary, honest, real. No marble countertops, but the laminate ones held memories of homework sessions and birthday cakes. No designer furniture, but every piece told a story. Lisa had traded all of this for the promise of something shinier. She'd learned too late that some things can't be bought, can't be replaced, can't be reclaimed once they're lost. I'd learned something different, that the price of everything is often nothing compared to the value of what you already have. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply refusing to lose yourself in someone else's emptiness. The story ended not with dramatic confrontation or calculated destruction, but with the quiet satisfaction of a life well lived. I hadn't destroyed Lisa. She'd destroyed herself. My victory was in the 10 years I'd spent being the parent she'd refused to be, building a relationship with my son that no amount of luxury could ever purchase. Some revenge is served cold. The best revenge is served warm, at your own dinner table, surrounded by people who choose to stay. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.